Well,
which is
in my case, the more I've been reading on this statin thing, that that the CoQ10 appeared to be primary in the aging process. If you forget the if we forget statin, the cause of aging appears to be increased mitochondrial mutations,
interesting.
leading to decreased mitochondria in the various cells, and then pretty soon the cells fail, and then pretty soon the organs fail. Hence we have aging. Now I'm saying now in my last two books, I've preached that statins enhance aging.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
what they appear to do.
I would tend to agree with you, and actually, just mentioning that reminds me of a conversation I had with one of the scientists that working for the biggest manufacturer of ubiquinol, the reduced version of CoQ10, and he was sharing some studies done on rats that really weren't published, but just showed, I mean, absolutely shocking extensions in lifespan with the use of CoQ10, as strongly implicating it as a very potent anti-aging benefit. So. It's actually, from my perspective, I mean, it doesn't appear to have any downsides other than the cost. So if that's not an issue, it would seem wise for someone who's interested in extending their lifespan and staying as young and healthy as long as they can, that this might be a useful, considerable tool
I
to
don't know how
apply.
many people I've told take as much as you can afford. That's what I've told hundreds of
Oh,
people.
so that's your
It's
recommendation.
it's a shame it's $25 a month or something like
Yeah,
that. But I try to buy mine 2 months supply for one and all
sure.
those deals.
But
But yes, I
and you're
completely
using
agree with you.
ubiquinol.
Yes,
All right. So, and from your perspective, there's really no downside from overdosing on this and taking a toxic dose or something that's going to have too much cocaine.
never heard of a downside. Never heard of an overdosing. The only
Okay.
downside is cost, like you said.
Okay.
And actually, I've been trying to get the cheapest I could, but
Well, just be
uh,
careful. If you are, and let me just enlighten the readers and perhaps yourself too. The reduced version, which we both are in agreement of,
it's expensive.
is the one to take. Is only made by one company in the world. It's Konica, and they're out of Japan, and they have a patent on this. So yeah, I guess you could, as long as it's ubiquinol, is certified ubiquinol, then you go for the lowest price because that's the only one out there that has it.
Well, I know of Kanika, and I know they've got the only patent, and I begrudge that. Yes,
Yeah, it's it's yeah,
I
but
think
it's
somebody's going to have to come back with a study to show there's no significant difference between the two.
between CoQ10 and reduced version.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
we
mean,
need more studies along that line.
yeah,
What
interesting.
you call the ACE card.
Yeah, I talked to Dr. Steven Sinatra about this, and I'm sure you're familiar with him.
I know,
And
Steve.
he's a big believer in coenzyme Q10, not necessarily the ubiquinol version. So I actually want to get him on the phone and review his work with him because he actually did those studies and come up with some conflicting results. So, but apparently that seems to be the best approach at this point is to take the reduced version. But I'm just wondering, you had mentioned earlier that as you age, your body's ability to produce CoQ10 is decreased. And since you interchange CoQ10 and ubiquinol, I'm just wondering if is it actually a total decrease in CoQ10 production, or is it the fact that we're making the CoQ10 and we just can't reduce it?
My understanding is we're not able to synthesize CoQ10. Now, whatever that means, that's what I
Okay.
read. Yeah.
All right, so it's interesting because if that's the case, then perhaps just taking it would be sufficient, and your body's internal recycling systems would do that. And I think isn't that another function of CoQ10 is that it recycles these other antioxidants like vitamin E and vitamin C, who can donate their electrons, and then they're in antioxidants. But once they donate it, then they're in the reduced version, and they don't work so well. But doesn't CoQ10 tend to recycle them?
There's another one that does that. No, I'll have to go back to my books to answer that question.
Okay.
No, can't answer that right now.
All right.
But that would be a new one for me on CoQ10 if it really helps the others.
I thought it did. I thought it helped at recycling that. Um, And any differences, since it is a fat, one of the, there's fat soluble and oil soluble supplements and antioxidants specifically, like vitamin C is water and vitamin E would be fat soluble. But CoQ10 is a fat soluble supplement. So does it make any difference as to what you're eating with a meal with respect to absorption?
Oh, I don't even want to answer that. I'm a very superficial biochemist.
Okay.
All I know is what I've been reading, and I'm not even sure of most of what I read.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Okay.
don't want to counsel anybody until I really have access to
Okay.
books.
Fair enough.
I function like a family doctor more, and as we talk about this, it gets more and more into the role of a biochemist, or at least a pharmacist.
Sure. Well, or a researcher who's really studying this in the lab and
Yeah,
has his direct experience
can't
with
deny that,
this.
right?
So, and your experience is somewhat like mine with respect to, I mean, you're obviously more extensive in that you've collected this information. So you have a website. So, and this website serves as a tool that people can report complications from taking the statins, and you're collecting that data and then forwarding on to the appropriate agency, so that hopefully more conventional physicians will be aware of this and be alert to the fact that it could cause these side effects. So, what's your website's address?
Space Doc, that's one word, SPACEDOC,
Okay,
one
.net.
word. Yeah.
Okay, great. And
Difficult challenge for the future in manned spaceflight is the galactic cosmic radiation, which we call heavy primaries. This is really a major concern because you cannot stop these.
mm-hmm.
They are the nuclei. These are the nuclei of the atoms from hydrogen on up to iron.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been stripped of their electrons, and they have been coming, and they come at you at sub-light speed. So it's almost the speed of light, and they have incredible energies. And we first ran into these in Apollo 11 when we started with the light flashes that the astronauts were seeing. And now we know much more about them. We've studied them at length. And the reason that we can't stay on the surface of the moon longer than a few days is because we're being constantly peppered with these, and you cannot shield them with any existing technology. Even 12 feet of lead doesn't work for these.
Interesting.
These are amazing. And when they hit, it's not like ionizing radiation. That's bad enough.
Mm-hmm.
But when these hit, it's like getting hit with a high-powered rifle bullet.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
It leaves a hole of absolute destruction. It's surrounded by an ionized chaos is what we think of it, because of all the damage that's done. And it's and it's so small. These lesions are so small. It's only been recently that we can identify them.
Well,
And these are really amazing.
That further supports my joy at having not been successful at being an astronaut. So I just avoided that damage.
Now that we know about them, the guys are saying, "You mean you put me up with all that stuff?"
Yeah, that's
You're
true.
absolutely right.
Yeah, so I'm glad about that. But now I'm just curious because I didn't realize you had studied this. What is the source of most of those high reactive energy particles? Is it our sun, or is it other suns in the solar system or universe?
Well, they call them galactic cosmic radiation. So
Mm-hmm.
our sun contributes a little bit, but these are from the galaxy. These are from
Mostly.
everywhere else. All the explosions,
Okay.
most of them come from novas and supernovas way off that are surrounding us at all times. So anytime we go on the other side of the Earth's magnetic shield, now the Earth's magnetic field is like a big umbrella. But once we get out to about 40,000 feet,
40,000. That's
I'm
where it
sorry,
starts.
not feet, but 40,000 miles.
Ma-
No, the umbrella goes from 400 to 40,000 miles.
okay.
Okay, so the Earth is tucked away inside comfortably, and you got this giant, quite thick umbrella. But once you get beyond 40, you get out to say 60, and that's where they were on the way to the moon, heading for the moon, which is about what 240. But anyway, they're out at 60,000, and they started seeing light flashes. So anytime from 60,000 miles away from the Earth is when deep space begins, and that's going to be with us all the way back to the moon and all the way to Mars and all the way to whatever else we do in the future. We've got to allow for the fact that we're dealing with an extraordinarily hostile environment that requires probably some sort of electromagnetic shielding, because these are all charged particles. And if we can push them right or push them left a little bit, maybe we can secure a crew compartment. But that's what we're dealing with now.
Yeah, that would seem to make the most sense. Now, when you flew as an astronaut, did you actually go to the moon, or were you on an orbital flight?
No, I didn't. I didn't get any mission. Two of us did not get any mission out of the six of the scientists that were selected. I'm the guy that did all the ground-based stuff. So I'm the guy that did all the muscles and exercises and all that. And here I knew they took my roommate, but they didn't take me. My roommate was a geologist, Harrison Schmidt, and I knew he was going to go. Why would they take a family doctor? So anyway, they took Harrison Schmidt. He did a great job, but that's the only guy that ever went to the moon, the only scientist.
Oh, wow. Excellent. Well, that's good. I really thank you. Do you have any other closing comments you'd like to make on the topic?
No, not really, except I'm still very much anti-statin, and yet I recognize that that if we say that our heart disease, stroke, is a inflammatory process, I will offer that they do seem to give us a type of anti-inflammation that seems to work, but the cost is terrible side effects. There are probably 500 people who have been put in wheelchairs because of their ALS-like conditions, but there are tens of thousands of cases of permanent muscle and permanent nerve damage just walking about because they can't get a lawyer to take their case.
Well, hopefully you've established a database that will provide the validation that this is in fact a real clinical entity, and that would provide some of the plaintiff attorneys with the tools they need to successfully litigate these drug companies for the damage that they're doing.
That's what I'm trying. I'm really close now.
Yeah.
I'm very close. There's going to be, especially now is the time to strike and to try to interest a group of lawyers, especially since we know that this past 35 years of focus on cholesterol has been wrong. What better time to strike than now, when when the drug company has to realize that coming up with drugs that lower cholesterol was a bad idea.
Sure.
They have to do that now. Okay, this is the time to strike.
Well, good. Well, hopefully expose your message to more people and provide you with some more ammunition to be effective in your battle with them. So thank you for all you're doing, and I appreciate the time with you today.
Okay, thank you so much.